In the spring of 1952, horticulturalist Charles Hess published findings that sent a quiet shockwave through the American nursery industry when he demonstrated that a simple tea made from the branches of an ordinary tree could produce rooting success rates equal to, and sometimes greater than, anything modern science had synthesized in a laboratory. No patents were involved, no factories, no chemical processing, just water and freshly cut wood. And yet within a decade, this discovery vanished almost completely, scrubbed from horticultural textbooks, removed from university extension programs, and replaced by small bottles of commercial rooting hormones that cost $20 and expired within months. Gardeners were taught that modern plant propagation required chemical precision and industry expertise. That success depended on purchased solutions. But what if the formula for unlimited plant growth has always been growing freely along riverbanks, available to anyone with pruning shears and a glass jar? This is the forgotten method that multiplied forests for centuries before corporate horticulture decided you needed to buy it. The use of willow branches to stimulate root growth predates written gardening manuals. Medieval monastery gardens across Europe recorded the practice, and farmers noticed a consistent pattern. Cuttings planted near willow groves rooted faster and stronger than those planted anywhere else. The willow tree itself became the proof. Break a branch, push it into damp soil, and within weeks, it does not merely survive, it erupts with roots. By the 1800s, nurserymen throughout Europe and North America were quietly using willow extracts in their propagation sheds. The technique appeared in Victorian gardening journals, passed between estate gardeners, and lived within the unwritten knowledge of professional plant sellers. It worked so reliably that few questioned why. The trees simply knew how to root, and somehow they shared that knowledge with everything planted nearby. The science behind this folklore finally emerged in 1935 at the Boyce Thompson Institute in New York, where researchers Percy Zimmerman and Alfred Hitchcock isolated a molecule called indole-3-butyrate, known as EBA. When applied to cuttings, EBA triggered root formation with remarkable consistency by reprogramming plant stem cells and forcing them to become root initiation cells, effectively overriding the plant's normal developmental pathway. A patent was filed the same year and licensed to Merck & Company, with documentation describing IBA as the most effective synthetic rooting agent ever discovered. But there was a problem with that narrative. IBA was not entirely synthetic. It occurred naturally and in massive concentrations within one specific family of trees. Willows, species within the Salix genus, produce IBA in their young growing tips at levels far higher than almost any other plant. The same trees that had been quietly rooting cuttings for centuries were now chemically confirmed as nature's own rooting hormone factories. In 1952, Hess revisited this ancient method using modern equipment. He prepared willow deficit, a water extract made by soaking willow twigs, and his trials showed that willow water significantly improved rooting success, especially in difficult cuttings like roses and fruit trees. His findings were published, discussed at conferences, and briefly acknowledged as a legitimate alternative to commercial products. Then they disappeared, not because the method failed, but because the industry that had just patented synthetic IBA could not profit from a tree. Willow branches contain two critical compounds that work together. The first is indole-3-butyric acid, the same molecule found in every commercial rooting powder. The second is salicylic acid, the compound that forms the basis of aspirin. In plants, salicylic acid acts as a defensive signal, activating immune responses and, crucially, slowing wound healing. When a cutting is taken, the plant immediately tries to seal the wound, which can block hormone flow. Salicylic acid keeps that channel open just long enough for IBA to initiate root development. Commercial rooting products provide IBA but not the protective shield. Willow water delivers both, forming a biologically optimized system where growth is initiated and decay is suppressed at the same time. This is the same biochemistry underpinning a billion-dollar industry, differing only in its source. By the late 1930s, horticulture faced a choice: teach gardeners to use a free tree growing in every ditch, or sell a synthetic version that could be controlled, patented, and repurchased season after season. The decision was economic, not scientific. Marketing campaigns throughout the 1940s and 1950s framed synthetic hormones as modern and professional, while natural methods were subtly dismissed as outdated. Brands filled catalogs. Universities stopped teaching willow water, and extension agents stopped recommending it. By the 1960s, it had been erased from mainstream horticultural knowledge, not because it did not work, but because it could not be sold. Today, the global rooting hormone market exceeds $1 billion annually. Gardeners pay repeatedly for small bottles with expiration dates, while willows continue to grow freely along rivers and disturbed land. A single willow tree, pruned yearly, can produce enough extract to propagate thousands of plants at no cost. The suppression was not active censorship, but structural invisibility. Knowledge that generates no revenue does not survive in a sales-driven system. Reclaiming it is simple. Identify any willow species in the Salix genus, preferably near water. Use young shoots from the current growing season with green or yellow bark, as older gray wood contains far less EPA. Cut the shoots into 1-inch segments, remove the leaves, fill a jar halfway with the pieces, and pour boiling water over them to rupture the cell walls. Seal the jar and let it steep for 24 hours. The resulting liquid will be pale amber, like weak tea. Strain out the wood and store the liquid in the refrigerator, where it remains potent for up to 2 months. To use it, soak the base of cuttings overnight before planting. It works on roses, berries, shrubs, and many trees, performing identically to synthetic products because it is the same product, harvested with scissors instead of synthesized in a lab. The disappearance of willow water was not malice, but economics. Chemistry does not lie. Iba is Iba. The only difference between the bottle and the branch is who profits. You can remain in the billion-dollar loop, or walk to the river and break it. The industry exists because we forgot what willows remembered. But the trees are still waiting. If this story changed how you see the weeds along your path, this is Lost Nature Vault, and we are uncovering the technologies they tried to bury. Make the tea. Plant the future. The next vault opens soon.